The movie starts with a story of a happy kingdom where the king and queen are very merciful. They had everything but no child for whom they always prayed. Then, on a beautiful winter night, their wish was fulfilled. A beautiful princess was born in their house, and they named her Snow White. As Snow White grew up, the king and queen taught her that no doubt we rule here, but actually this kingdom belongs to those who work for it. You will also have to rule it one day, but we know that you will do this work with truthfulness and mercy. Everything was going very well, but one day the queen died of an illness, and these people were left alone. Some time later, a beautiful woman came to this palace. The king fell in love with her beauty, and soon he married her. She became a queen, but her beauty was more important to her than this kingdom and the king. She also had a magical mirror that only spoke the truth. This evil queen always asked it, "Tell me, who is the most beautiful in this world?" When it used to take the name of that queen, she used to be extremely happy. One day, through this mirror, she came to know that their kingdom was going to be attacked. For this war, the king left with his army, but after that day, the king never came back. And so the rule and harshness of this evil queen continued to increase. Snow White's status was reduced to that of a maid. Years passed, and people also forgot that there was a princess named Snow White. Because of the strictness of the evil queen, evil started spreading in the kingdom, and starvation also spread. One day, when Snow White was busy cleaning the castle, a boy named Jonathan came in. He had come to steal things. Snow White told him that stealing was a bad practice. "You can also take this food with the permission of the queen. You should talk to the queen or princess to find a solution to these problems." Jonathan laughed and said, "Which princess? I don't think she is even alive." Snow White was saddened to hear these words about herself. Snow White said to him that the princess was still alive and she wanted to help her nation. Jonathan said that she had not done anything yet. Saying this, he left, stealing the potatoes. His words were instilled in Snow White's mind. She also thought that she should do something for her people. She thought of talking to the queen. She told the evil queen that she should take care of everyone. "You should give your wealth to people so that their problems may be resolved. I remember that Dad taught me all this. Every year on a special occasion, we all used to make apple pies and distribute them among people." Hearing her, the evil queen said, "These insects are not worthy of such great food." In the meantime, the soldiers caught Jonathan and brought him before the evil queen. Queen punished him by burning his house in return for his theft. But Jonathan said, "I don't have a house." He was actually the leader of thieves. And before that, he and his companions used to work for the king. After hearing this, the queen said, "Then throw him in the cellar, so violently that the whole palace may echo with his screams." Snow White said, "You can't do this. Dad never punished too harshly so that the other person would not rebel." Snow White's words made the evil queen even angrier, and she made Jonathan stand outside the palace without clothes in the freezing cold. Now the evil queen spoke harshly to Snow White, and Snow White started singing a song after being sad. In this song, she was also remembering her parents, and she was asking for all the wishes that she wanted to fulfill for her people. After this, she came to Jonathan and freed him. The soldiers had seen her, and she had to run away before being caught. On the other hand, the evil queen was sitting beside her magic mirror again. This time, she asked the same question again. "Speak out, mirror. Who is the most beautiful in this world?" The mirror replied, "Now you are not the most beautiful. Now someone else has come to this world who is the most beautiful, and she is Snow White." Queen got very angry after hearing this. She became jealous. She called her most loyal hitman and ordered him to kill Snow White. "And bring me her heart in this box." The hitman did not want to carry out this order because Snow White seemed innocent to him. But the queen told him, "You don't know. Behind an innocent face, she is a witch. She reveals the news of our kingdom to another kingdom, accompanying robbers." we see that Snow White had gone to the jungle to pluck apples. The hitman followed her, but he could not kill Snow White. He finally told Snow White that the evil queen had very dangerous intentions for her. She wants to kill you before her life is in danger. It is better that you run away from this kingdom. He also told her that the queen knew something about her dad but was keeping it a secret. Hearing this from the hitman, Snow White started fearing, and she started running deep into the jungle. These paths were full of dangers. Moment by moment, she confronted new creatures and animals which were very life-threatening. Finally, she found a dangerous tree that tried to trap her with its roots. Before it could harm her, the ground opened from below and Snow White fell into it. This was a different world, very beautiful. All the small animals here seemed merciful. They brought Snow White to a small house. Snow White saw that everything in the house was very small, and there were 7 small beds here. Scared and tired, Snow White slept on those 7 beds, and these animals covered her with a blanket. Here in this world, we now see 7 dwarfs. All of them were happily returning to their homes after working. These 7 worked in diamond mines, from where they used to extract diamonds and gems. Now, as soon as they came to their home, they were surprised to see Snow White there. Seeing Snow White, all of them got scared and started running here and there. Only a small dwarf kept standing there before he also ran away. Snow White walked slowly to him and introduced herself. Before she could tell him more about her, all the other dwarfs came with their weapons to kill her. She felt that these dwarfs did not want to keep her at home, so she started leaving. While the dwarfs were very surprised to see a human for the first time, before leaving she thought, "If I leave from here, where will I go?" That's why she decided to tell everything to the dwarfs. And she said, "My name is Snow White. The evil queen wanted to kill me. That's why I ran into the jungle and then I got here." Hearing her story, all these dwarfs felt very bad, and now they introduced themselves to Snow White. One by one, they told their names to Snow White and also told her that they worked in the diamond mines. Seeing them, Snow White said, "I understood today why my dad used to say that the jungle is a magical place. Maybe because of this area." On the other hand, now we are shown the evil queen. Through her mirror, it was known that Snow White was still alive. As soon as she opened the hitman's jewelry box, there was an apple in it. She got very angry at the hitman's betrayal. She screamed in a strange way, "The one who betrayed me will not be spared." Along with her soldiers, she had called the hitman here. She hit the hitman mercilessly. The hitman knew and accepted his death. But before dying, he told the evil queen, "If even a little mercy is in your heart, then you should spare Snow White." Queen did not listen to him. She also ordered to throw the hitman in the cellar. And she ordered her soldiers to bring Snow White from the jungle after searching for her. Meanwhile, Snow White was shown here with the dwarfs. Today, her morning was very different from the other mornings. These dwarfs were fighting like every day and making fun of a small dwarf. Feeling sad, he went out and Snow White noticed it. Good Snow White explained to him, "Look, being sad is not the solution to problems. We must face everything bravely." She also taught him to whistle, and in a little while his mood improved. When these people went back home, everything was scattered. All these dwarfs were arguing, "Who will work? Who will work?" That's why they were fighting. So Snow White said, "All these tasks that you think are burdens, if you all do them together, then these tasks will also be fun." Snow White also noticed here that all their anger was not because they hated each other, but because they just couldn't explain things to each other. Snow White explained to them how to talk to each other and find a solution to all the problems. And like this, a big change happened in the lives of these dwarfs. They sang and worked together and they stayed happy. Snow White also told them her childhood stories here, when her kingdom was full of love and both her father and mother were alive. She remembered while talking that the hitman had told her that the evil queen had hidden a secret about her father. They all believed that the king had died in war, but perhaps he was still alive. Snow White said to the dwarfs, "We can search for him with the help of the robbers in the forest. They had told me that they used to serve the king before." Now it was the duty time of the dwarfs, so they also left, and Snow White left in search of the robbers. She was wandering in the forest to and fro when suddenly someone pulled her behind a tree. It was Jonathan, who saved her life from those soldiers sent to catch her by the evil queen. Snow White told Jonathan, "I think the king is still alive." Jonathan said to her, "It may be true, 'cause I heard too that the king has been captured in the kingdom with which he went to war. But I don't know where he is." While they were talking, Jonathan's other companions also arrived and met Snow White with honor. Before they could plan how to search for the king, many soldiers appeared. They had caught sight of Snow White. Jonathan and all his companions decided to rescue Snow White without hesitation. They all came forward to fight with the royal soldiers and asked Snow White to escape from there. But the royal soldiers were in large numbers while the robbers were few, so Snow White started feeling upset for them. So Snow White hit upon a plan. She untied all the horses of the royal soldiers, creating commotion among them. This gave the robbers some time to escape. After this, Snow White shouted loudly, climbing up a high mountain. Due to this, all the soldiers' attention was diverted to Snow White. When the soldiers moved toward the high mountain, they noticed that there was no Snow White. It was a trap. Now Snow White had also accompanied the robbers. They reached the thick forest while running and finally got rid of the soldiers. Jonathan admired the bravery of Snow White and assured her, "We will always be loyal to the king, because we were so comfortable in everything during his time." A soldier came to their hidden place where they were talking. Seeing Snow White, he pointed an arrow toward her. Jonathan saw him before he attacked. Moving Snow White aside, he got shot by the arrow while saving her. Jonathan's other companions captured that soldier, and Snow White decided to take Jonathan to the dwarfs. 'Cause one of the dwarfs was named Doc, she thought he might be a doctor. But it turned out that Doc was not a doctor, only his name was Document. His skill was extracting rocks and minerals. Knowing this, Jonathan's companion began to get furious at him, and an argument started among them. Interrupting their argument, Snow White said, "What are all of you doing? The aim of the evil queen is to create conflicts among us so that we may fall apart and not believe in one another, being selfish. But it is not like that. All problems will resolve if we help one another." Everyone fell silent for a time after listening to Snow White's words. After this, Doc said, "I am not a doctor in reality, but I will do my best to save Jonathan's life." Doc took Jonathan inside his house. For a long time, when he came out, there was sadness on his face. All were glancing at him with curious eyes. Before Doc could speak a single word, Jonathan appeared from behind. All took a sigh of relief seeing him, but Jonathan had lost much of his strength. Now they all began to celebrate this happiness. Jonathan and Snow White came close to each other while celebrating and singing songs. Before they could approach each other, they realized they were standing among many people. Jonathan and his companions decided before sunrise that they would move into the forest early in the morning so that this secret place would remain hidden and Snow White would be safe. Jonathan said before departing, "Today I am going for 2 days. I will not be able to return during this time, but I promise that we will go to the kingdom in search of the king when I return." Snow White handed over her chain to him, the one gifted to her by her dad. She said, "It will remind you to return." But he was caught in a trap when he headed into the forest. Before he could understand anything, the evil queen's soldiers brought him to the palace. The queen asked him upon his arrival, "Where is Snow White?" He tried his best to pretend, saying, "I don't know who Snow White is." But the chain around his neck exposed the truth. Pulling this chain, she threw Jonathan into the basement. And she herself started making magic with a magical potion. Here, the evil queen's real face was revealed. She was a witch. After this, she drank the magical potion, and her condition worsened. She turned into an old witch, her real appearance. She had transformed herself into a beautiful lady through magic. After this, she took an apple and began to recite the spell of poison and magic. In simple words, she cast a spell on the apple so that a profound sleep would wrap Snow White when she ate it. Meanwhile, Jonathan was trying to free himself from the cellar. He also found the hitman there. Then the scene shifted to Snow White. After this, all the dwarfs had gone to work. She wanted to leave in search of her dad, but an old lady appeared at that moment. Snow White could not recognize her. This old woman, who was actually the witch, told Snow White while giving her a locket. Jonathan is in great trouble. Seeing her locket, Snow White sensed that she should save Jonathan's life. She was about to leave, but the old lady stopped her. She offered her an apple and said, "Eat this. You will maintain your energy with this." As your dad quoted, "Love conquers all." Hearing the touching words of her dad, she fell into the witch's trap and ate the apple. We saw here that all the animals and birds of the dwarfs ran quickly to inform them about Snow White's trouble. Darkness began to appear in front of Snow White's eyes as she ate the apple. She started feeling dizzy and asked, "What was in this?" The evil witch spoke the same words here that the evil queen used to utter. As a result, Snow White realized that she was the evil queen who considered Snow White her bitter enemy. Now Snow White fell into a profound sleep. Dark storm clouds spread over the kingdom, and the evil witch disappeared, turning into smoke. When all the dwarfs and animals returned to Snow White, they found her lying down in sadness. They thought Snow White was no more. They could do nothing but lay her down at a place and cover her with flowers. In the palace cellar, the hitman and Jonathan had broken the wall. On the opposite side of this wall, there was a waterway leading to the forest. The hitman encouraged Jonathan, who ran to the forest immediately. He observed some animals there and sensed from their chaos that something was wrong. As he reached near the dwarf's house, he became distressed, seeing Snow White as if dead. He sat near Snow White mournfully and kissed her. Snow White regained consciousness as he kissed her, and joy filled everyone. Coming to her senses, she told Jonathan, "All of this is happening because of the evil queen. She is actually a witch. She is the one who sent my dad to war after planning this. And she herself ended the king, commanding her own men." While they were discussing this, a single snowflake fell on Snow White's hand. Seeing this, Snow White decided that the time had come when she would have to take control of everything. She would have to save her kingdom from the evil queen by fighting her. Now she would have to give the people the justice they deserved, spreading love and turning their circumstances for the better. As Snow White returned to her kingdom, a glimmer of hope appeared on the faces of her people. And all reached in front of the palace, chasing Snow White. The evil queen herself came down, noticing the rebellious attitude of the people and Snow White. She held a rose in one hand and a sword in the other. And she addressed the people. "Look, only beauty and power are made for the throne." Then she burned the rose, blowing on it, and said, "Look, only power is left to rule the throne." She provoked Snow White to fight. But instead of fighting, Snow White began reminding the soldiers of their good memories, when they used to be kind-hearted in the king's time. They used to care for one another, and their lives were comfortable. Snow White said to them, "It was only a short while ago when there was peace in the kingdom. Everyone was joyful. Justice was for everyone. I only want to restore this for our kingdom." Disarming themselves, the evil queen's soldiers showed that they would stand by Snow White. Observing this, the queen realized all her power was being lost. She started to attack Snow White, but someone threw a knife from her hand while shooting an arrow. It was seen that it was a dwarf who had saved Snow White's life. Now all the dwarfs approached, having taken steps to help Snow White and the people. Now the evil queen moved inside the palace in rage, where her magical mirror was placed. The magical mirror was observing everything. The evil queen again talked to the mirror and asked, "Speak, mirror. Who is the most beautiful in this world?" The mirror spoke, The most beautiful in this world is Snow White, and she will remain. Her beauty is not in her appearance but in her heart. She will rule the hearts of the people because of her kind-heartedness and justice. It said to the queen, "Your beauty never touched your heart. Your outer beauty cannot do anything." In fury, she broke the mirror by hurling something at it. The mirror shattered into countless fragments, and the body of the evil queen also shattered. Turning into black smoke, her body was trapped inside the magical mirror for a lifetime. And we knew through this that all the powers of the evil queen depended on this magical mirror. Snow White took her throne after the end of the evil queen. Joy spread throughout the kingdom with the reign of Snow White. This captivating story ends here. Thanks for watching.